Welcome to Redacted Reality. If the allure of the shadowy, cryptic, and mystical tales captivate you, then please subscribe and hang around. Chapter 11. Rooms Left Behind. Detective Miller's car led the procession back to the Aspen View Hotel, a boxy three-story building with a facade attempting rustic charm through riverstone accents and cedar trim. Rain pattered against the windshield, blurring the hotel's lights into soft halos as they pulled into the parking lot. "Wait here," Miller instructed as he parked, the East Whiteland PD cruiser's headlights cutting through the evening gloom. Sarah, Marcus, and Lily watched for Marcus's car as the detective approached the front entrance, his tall figure silhouetted momentarily before disappearing inside. The silence in their vehicle was oppressive, weighted with unspoken fear for their missing friends. "This has to work," Sarah murmured, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her phone case. "If there's anything in those rooms that could convince Miller." "There will be," Marcus replied, though his voice lacked conviction. "Joe's meticulous. He always documents everything." Lily stared at the hotel entrance, her earlier betrayal still hanging between them. What if we're too late? Before either could answer, Miller reappeared at the entrance, waving them forward. They hurried through the rain to meet him, huddling under the meager protection of the entrance overhang. "The managers agreed to let us access the rooms," Miller explained, rain droplets beating on his jacket. "Hotel policy permits law enforcement wellness checks under certain circumstances." "All 3 rooms?" Sarah asked. Miller nodded. "Under the Rains party reservation. But remember our agreement. You observe from the doorway only. Touch nothing." The night manager, a thin man with perpetually raised eyebrows, led them down the second-floor hallway. His master key card jingled on a retractable lanyard as he stopped outside room 214. "This is highly irregular," he muttered, glancing nervously at Miller's badge. "Without a warrant." "It's a wellness check, Mr. Patel," Miller reminded him. "Your cooperation is appreciated." The manager swiped his card with a sigh. The lock's electronic mechanism clicked, and the door swung inward to reveal the darkened room. "Give me a moment first," Miller said, placing a restraining hand on Sarah's arm as she instinctively moved forward. He pulled a small flashlight from his pocket and stepped inside, leaving the 3 of them waiting anxiously in the hallway. Through the open door, they could see Joe Rain's belongings. A half-unpacked duffel bag, a laptop on the desk, tactical manuals, climbing gear neatly arranged, and most importantly, his mobile phone. Everything looked untouched, as if Joe had stepped out momentarily and would return any second. Miller methodically examined the room, careful not to disturb anything as he moved from the main area to the bathroom. His expression remained neutral, professional, revealing nothing as he returned to the doorway. "Let's check the other rooms," he said quietly, nodding to Mr. Patel to lead the way. The night manager led them down the hall to room 218, pausing to swipe his keycard with the same reluctant efficiency. The electronic lock beeped, and he pushed the door open. "This is Mr. Doyle's room," he explained unnecessarily as Detective Miller entered. Sarah peered past Miller's broad shoulders into the darkened space. Sam's photographic equipment was meticulously arranged on the desk. Spare lenses, memory cards, his backup camera, a laptop set closed beside them. His phone lay on the nightstand, its notification light blinking periodically with missed calls. "Same pattern," Miller observed, checking the bathroom. "Personal items left behind. Bed hasn't been slept in." As they proceeded to room 220, Ellie's room, Sarah felt her anxiety mounting. The consistent pattern was disturbing. None of them would have voluntarily left their phones behind. The electronic lock beeped, and the door swung open to reveal a similar scene of personal items seemingly abandoned mid-use. Miller moved efficiently through Ellie's room, his flashlight beam illuminating her climbing gear propped against the wall, a book splayed open on her bed, and her phone charging on the nightstand. But as his light swept across the desk, he paused. "What's this?" he murmured, approaching a notebook that lay conspicuously open, a torn page visible beside it. Sarah tensed. "Did you find something?" Miller carefully picked up the single sheet of paper, angling it toward the light. His eyes narrowed as he read. Then he turned it to them, holding the note. "It appears Miss Navarro left a note," he said, his professional demeanor unchanged. "If you're reading this, we've gone to the Whittaker house. Just reconnaissance. Be back by morning. Don't worry. E." Sarah exhaled sharply. "See? They did go to the house, just like we said." Miller carefully folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. "This confirms their intended destination, but not what happened to them. I'll need to take this as evidence." "And their phones?" Marcus asked. "They could have information too." "I'll need a warrant to access those," Miller replied. "Miss Navarro's note gives us reasonable cause to request one, but that will take time." After thanking the night manager, Miller led them back to the lobby, away from curious ears. His expression had shifted subtly. The skepticism hadn't vanished, but it had been tempered. "I'll dispatch officers to the Whittaker property immediately," he said, already pulling out his phone. "The note establishes a timeline and confirms your friend's intentions. That's enough to justify a thorough search of the premises." Sarah felt a momentary surge of relief, but it quickly dissipated. "We need to go with you. We know the layout, the history." "Absolutely not," Miller cut her off. "This is now an official missing persons investigation. You three will remain here at the hotel in case your friends return or make contact." As Miller stepped away to make this call, Lily stood, slightly apart from the others, her face drawn with worry. She had been uncharacteristically quiet since they discovered the note. Now, as Sarah and Marcus conferred in low voices, Lily pressed her palms against her temple, a shiver running through her. For there, at the back of her consciousness, was Ellie's voice again, soft and eerily cheerful. "We can still see you." The words weren't spoken aloud. They unfurled directly in her mind like a poisonous flower. Lily's breath caught, her heart hammering against her ribs. The voice was unmistakably Ellie's, but wrong somehow, hollowed out, like someone wearing Ellie's vocal cords as a disguise. "We can still see you." Ellie's voice sounded happy, satisfied, as though whatever had happened to her was exactly what she had wanted. The wrongness of it sent ice through Lily's veins. She opened her mouth to tell the others, but hesitated. What if it was just her imagination? What if the house had affected her more deeply than she had thought? Admitting she was hearing voices would only make Sarah trust her less after each earlier betrayal. Lily swallowed hard, forcing her expression to remain neutral as Miller returned to the group. She would wait, observe, gather more information before sharing this unsettling development. For now, the priority was finding their friends, whatever might remain of them. Detective Miller's phone conversation grew more intense with each passing second, his tall frame going rigid as he listened to the patrolman's report. His eyes narrowed, jaw muscles working beneath his clean-shaven face as he paced a tight circle in the hallway lobby. Sarah, Marcus, and Lily watched from the couches, straining to hear his side of the exchange. "Slow down, Ramirez," Miller said, voice dropping to that deliberate calm that seasoned cops use when processing disturbing information. "You're saying you couldn't see the house clearly from the road?" The detective listened, nodding slightly as he jotted notes in his small breast pocket notebook. "So you drove down the access road. How far did you get?" Miller's gaze flickered towards the trio waiting anxiously on the lobby couches, his expression remaining professionally neutral, but something in his eyes had changed. A hardening, a recognition of something beyond routine. "What kind of noises, exactly?" he pressed, turning his back to the group. "I need specifics, Ramirez." Sarah leaned forward, straining to hear the conversation. Miller's shoulders tensed visibly. "Animal sounds aren't uncommon in wooded areas, officer," Miller said, though his tone suggested he wasn't dismissing the report. "But you say they stopped suddenly? All at once?" The pause that followed stretched uncomfortably long. Miller's pen hovered over his notebook, unmoving. "I see," he finally responded. "And that's when you felt it was necessary to retreat?" It wasn't phrased as a question. Miller straightened, his knuckles whitening around the phone. "The tire tracks heading away from the property. Fresh, you said." Any indication of speed or erratic driving? The detective made one final note before ending the call. Maintain your position at the perimeter. Do not approach the property again. I'm assembling a team now. He tucked the phone into his jacket pocket and turned to face the group. Something in his demeanor had shifted, professional skepticism replaced by grim certainty. Officer Ramirez conducted a preliminary drive-by of the Whittaker property, Miller explained, his voice measured. He confirmed the presence of the vehicle you described, parked roughly 30 yards from the main house. And? Sarah prompted, sensing his hesitation. And he reported irregularities, Miller continued carefully. He initially heard what was described as chanting coming from deep in the woods, multiple voices speaking in unison, but too distant to make out words. When he drove partway down the access road to investigate, the sounds ceased abruptly. Lily wrapped her arms around herself, a visible shiver running through her body. He also noted unusual animal behavior, Miller added. Dead birds scattered near the entrance to the property. Some appeared to have dropped mid-flight, no visible cause of death. Marcus exchanged a troubled glance with Sarah. That's consistent with what we experienced. Like the place affects everything around it. Miller nodded once, professional mask slipping slightly. Ramirez is a 20-year veteran, not prone to exaggeration or flights of fancy. Yet he reported, the detective paused, clearly uncomfortable with what he was about to say. He reported feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched, not observed, but evaluated. His exact words were, like something was deciding whether I was worth the effort to kill. Sarah inhaled sharply. That's the house. That's exactly how it feels. He also noted fresh tire tracks leaving the property at high speed, Miller continued, consistent with someone's departing in a panic. The tracks matched the vehicle you three were driving. Lily lowered her gaze, the shame of her earlier betrayal still fresh. Detective, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her fear. You have to understand now. Whatever's in that house, it's not just some local ghost story. It's real, it's dangerous, and our friends are trapped inside with it. Miller closed his notebook with a decisive snap. I'm assembling a search team. We'll enter the property at first light with proper backup and equipment. First light, Marcus protested. That's hours from now. Our friends might not have that long. Officer Ramirez barely made it 30 yards down the driveway before being overwhelmed, Miller countered. I'm not sending officers in to an unknown situation in the dark without proper preparation. Whatever's happening at that house has waited decades. It can wait until dawn. As Miller turned away to make another call, Sarah leaned in close to Marcus and Lily. He believes us now, she whispered. We can't wait until morning. Lily glanced towards Miller, then back to her friends. I keep hearing her, she admitted in a barely audible voice. Ellie. In my head. It sounds like her, but wrong. Happy about what's happening. Sarah's expression hardened with resolve. That we need to go, tonight, with or without police backup. In the distance, thunder rumbled across the Pennsylvania hills, as if in agreement with their decision.